Kenny King supplied offensive speed. Strong-arm Dan Pastorini, like King, a former Houston Oiler, found a top target in ex-Buffalo star Bob Chandler, as Oakland Raiders new and old mastered the Chiefs in Game 1. Game 2 showcased premier punter Ray Guy and special teams hitters like Jeff Barnes, Morris Bradshaw, Otis McKinney, and Captain Todd Christians. Alert Raider defenders picked off 5 San Diego passes, and explosive pass rushers Cedric Hardman, number 86, and Willie Jones, number 90, put points on the board. The offense was spurred by talented second-year pro Kenny King, Pro Bowl bound in just his first year in silver and black. Dan Pastorini found a lethal partner in the incomparable Cliff Branch. And when Pastorini was shaken up, number 16, Jim Plunkett, tied the game with a last-second touchdown to fearless Raymond Chester. But the Chargers hung on to deal the Raiders their first ever overtime loss. After 2 on the road, the Raiders opened at home against the Redskins, and Pastorini established air superiority with 2 scoring passes, one to number 87, Dave Casper. The silver and black controlled the action with 230 yards rushing, while tenacious team defense shut Washington down and recorded 5 sacks, including 3 by the dominating John Matuzak in a 24-21 Raider victory. Tom Flores and superior offensive assistants Sam Bogosian, Steve Ortmeyer, Bob Mishak, Lou Erber, and Ray Wilsey faced problems after 2 more losses. Dan Pastorini was sidelined with a broken leg, and field leadership passed to Jim Plunkett as the Raiders, now 2-3, faced the first-place Chargers in Week 6. Number 30, Mark Van Egan, and speedster Cliff Branch, veterans of Raider teams judged among history's best, joined in a scoring avalanche. And number 6, gifted number 1 draft choice Mark Wilson, recorded his first completion. But the biggest play was a record run as described by KGO, Raider Radio's Bill King.
So Plunkett will try to get him rolling from the 11. Hand off to King, outside left tackle into the secondary, takes off the 15, the 20, it's a good race for the 30. Here comes Shaw, 40, 50, Shaw gets a piece of it, misses at the 30, to the 20, to the 10, touchdown Raiders! Holy Toledo!
The 89-yard run, longest in Raider history, pressured the Chargers, as did 3 sacks by Willie Jones, and a defense playing with controlled fury led by Millen, Browning, Matuzak, and Ted Hendricks, number 83. The Raiders, continually defying great odds to become pro football's winningest team, thundered toward a record 16th consecutive winning season. From Pittsburgh, a nationwide Monday night audience saw the fierce Raiders rack up 5 more sacks against the defending world champion Steelers, while Willie Jones and Rod Martin, number 53, turned relentless defense into Oakland points. The powerful front line gave Plunkett time to put the bomb back in the Raider attack as he went deep to Bradshaw, Chandler, and Branch, and pro football's most feared and respected organization stunned Pittsburgh 45-34. Innovative defensive coaches Earl Leggett, Willie Brown, Chet Franklin, and Charlie Sumner masterminded defenses for Seattle, which yielded 2 Lester Hayes interceptions, plus 6 sacks by an ominous, intimidating force in black. Jim Plunkett personified Raider precision passing with 3 scoring throws to Bob Chandler as Oakland destroyed the Seahawks. In Game 9, the Raiders dominated the Miami Dolphins as crafty veterans Raymond Chester and Bob Chandler scored the touchdowns. Then a hostile defense took charge as linebackers Rod Martin, Ted Hendricks, and Randy McClanahan attacked, and cornerback Lester Hayes, number 37, picked off passes. Though one of Hayes' interceptions in this game was called back, he led the entire NFL in a secondary that topped the league in interceptions.
Every week, Barron's tells you more than what has happened or is happening in investments. Barron's tells you what will happen. A smart investor can take it from there.
You can get the next 26 issues of Barron's for $36. Just call 800-554-9000. Call today, and you'll also get as a bonus the helpful booklet, The ABCs of Market Forecasting. That's 26 issues of Barron's, plus the bonus booklet for just $36. Call 800-554-9000 now.
Hi, I'm Junior Johnson. I'd like to wish everybody across the United States, and especially the race fans, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Wednesday, find out who's the muscle-bound master of the universe. The world's best bodybuilders compete for the crown. Wednesday on ESPN.
Christmas Day on ESPN brings you athletes as good as gold. Olympic medalist Mary Lou Retton is just one of America's golden heroes. A gag gift is what you'll get next from the NFL's Football Follies. Watch high-priced pros become gridiron goobers right before your eyes. Then we're ready for a super surprise. More than 2 hours of Super Bowl highlights. It could prove to be a preview of things to come. Have a Merry Christmas with ESPN.
Week 11 found the Raiders in Seattle, where Arthur Whittington found a less direct route to the end zone. Crucial to this game were aggressive special teams, including Rich Martini, Keith Moody, and number 56, Jeff Barnes. Inspirational performers like Dwayne Osteen, Joe Campbell, and perennial Pro Bowl selection Ray Guy confounded Seattle, while fiery Lester Hayes and Ted Hendricks forced a fourth-quarter safety. Talented tight end Derek Ramsey fought goalward, and blockers like Derek Jensen and Bruce Davis fought off the Seahawks, while Chris Barr kicked a last-minute winning field goal. Losing in Philadelphia set up Week 13's Monday night test as Reggie Kinlaw and the battle-hardened defense limited Denver to just 3 points. Superb plays such as an Ira Matthews punt return, interceptions by Osteen, Owens, and Hayes, and Plunkett's scoring run helped the Raiders conquer Denver to earn an all-time pro record 16th consecutive winning season and maintain their incredible Monday night record. Also symbolic of excellence, the Gorman Award was presented to Ted Hendricks as the player who best exemplified the pride, poise, and spirit of the Raiders. A loss to Dallas made remaining games must-wins as the Raiders drove for their 11th playoff season since 1967. In Denver, field goal trickery was anticipated perfectly by skillful Burgess Owens, who gave Oakland 6 early points. Then Bob Chandler continued his wizardry with 2 more touchdowns as the Raiders prevailed 24-21. Another must-win in frigid Giant Stadium, where these Raiders, downgraded and criticized by skeptics early on, proved again that second effort is first nature for wearers of the famed silver and black. Turnovers became triumph, 33-17, as the Raiders scored in their 214th consecutive game, clinching a wild card playoff berth. The final touchdown came as an onside kick was alertly turned into 6 points by Derek Jensen. Since 1963, when Al Davis pledged to build the greatest organization in sports, Raider commitment to excellence has earned 9 division championships, an AFL championship, 2 AFC championships, and 2 world championships. Total domination of professional football in terms of consistent victory. Unyielding will to win had earned the underdog Raiders their place in the sun. All were ready for the playoffs, from trainers George Anderson and Rod Martin to Captain Gene Upshaw.
It all starts this week, one game, and one game. All you got to do is win. You lose, you go home.
But we going to the Super Bowl in 1908.
To achieve Super Bowl glory required beating 3 of the best, starting with the Houston Oilers and football's top rusher, Earl Campbell. With Campbell checked, defenders zeroed in on quarterback Ken Staple. When Ted Hendricks was not snuffing the snake himself, he was springing teammate Mike Davis, who had 2 of Oakland's 7 sacks in an awesome display of control and confidence, design and execution. The Raiders unleashed their feared 5-man passing game as Mark Van Egan picked up a blitz and Jim Plunkett hit halfback Kenny King deep to set up a touchdown by Todd Christensen, one of 10 second-year pros on the Raiders squad. In the final quarter, Plunkett, behind Dolby, Upshaw, Art Shell and company, isolated halfback Arthur Whittington on a linebacker, and Houston Hopes tumbled. The crushing blow was administered by the defense, which draped Stabler in silver and black, while Lester Hayes went up for 1, then took off for 6. Over 3 decades, the names have changed, but Raider commitment to excellence has grown stronger, and Coach Tom Flores has continued to add to these years of greatness.
The weather, it is brutal beyond belief. The wind chill factor at this moment here on the lakefront in Cleveland is -36. It's treacherous going, but as they say, both teams have to face the same conditions.
Surprisingly for the experts, it was the Raiders who calmly ignored the elements in the playoff against the Browns. Quarterback Brian Sipe was cooled by defensive captain Ted Hendricks, Dave Browning, number 73, and the mind and muscle of Raider defense. Wind, cold, and ice were challenges prepared for by equipment manager Dick Romansky. And for Plunkett, Chester, Branch, Chandler, King, Van Egan, and the big line of Shell, Upshaw, Dolby, Marvin, and Lawrence, it was time to again prove that under those battle-scarred silver and black helmets were warriors whose deeds would add to the great traditions of the Oakland Raiders. speed, drive, and contact courage by Kenny King gave the Raiders prime position, which Art Shell, Gene Upshaw, Dave Dalby, and the troops used to propel Mark Van Egan into the end zone for a go-ahead fourth quarter score. But in the final seconds, jubilation became concern. A scouting operation, Newsweek magazine, labeled one part fanaticism, one part CIA, and one part genius, had produced tough safety Mike Davis, who made the big play. As this organization, built with the support of respected general partner Ed McGarr, steadfast limited partners, executives Al Locasal and Ron Wolf, doctors Don Fink and Bob Rosenfeld, and a superb staff, would not be denied. And so these remarkable Raiders, picked for last in the West, roared into hostile San Diego for the AFC Championship game. In a classic contest, the Raiders struck first when a deflected pass was alertly turned into a 65-yard touchdown by Raymond Chester, number 88. Following a meticulously prepared game plan, Jim Plunkett rolled right and hit Cliff Branch to set up another score. Silver and black precision passing produced a third touchdown on a picture-perfect strike to a wide-open Kenny King. The offensive line and Derek Jensen blasted a runway for Mark Van Egan as the Raiders scored touchdown number 4. Ted Hendricks, Willie Jones, John Matuzak, Dave Browning, Cedric Hardman, Reggie Kinlaw, Joe Campbell and company attacked San Diego relentlessly, creating interception opportunities for daring pass defenders like Burgess Owens, number 44, Lester Hayes, number 37, and combative Dwayne Osteen, number 35. Intense man-to-man coverage by Monty Jackson, number 42, and Otis McKinney, number 23, helped forge a silver and black shield against a celebrated passing attack. The final quarter featured the field goal accuracy of Chris Barr and a decision to pound out the game's final minutes by giving the ball to pressure-proof, all-time rushing leader Mark Van Egan, number 30.
It is all over. The jubilation begins. The Raiders are bound for the Super Bowl for the 3rd time, climaxing one of the great stories in football in recent years, the total resurgence of the silver and black. New Orleans, here come the Raiders.
ESPN's Thursday kicks off with SportsCenter. We'll preview the bowl games, survey the NFL playoff picture, and bring you the latest hoop scoops. Then catch PKA's World Middleweight Championship. Jean-Yves Theriault defends his title against #1 contender Rodney Batista. And we'll stay ringside as Derek McGuire and Brett Summers put their undefeated records on the line. It's a lightweight showdown live on Top Rank Boxing. ESPN rings your bell Thursday.
The Super Bowl, football's shining hour, earned by the class and courage, the sweat and blood of proud giants. Tackle, Henry Lawrence. Guard, Mickey Martin. Center, Dave Dalby. Guard, Gene Upshaw. And tackle, Art Shell. And skilled, fearless receivers like Bob Chandler, Raymond Chester, and Cliff Branch. Gifted runners like Mark Van Egan and Kenny King, and a resourceful field general like Jim Plunkett. These AFC champions in silver and black were an aggressive, intimidating force against the favorite Philadelphia Eagles, creating 4 turnovers, committing none. Rod Martin's early interception foretold Raider domination to over 100 million viewers. From all angles, the varied Raider offense attacked and pressured, as Jim Plunkett and Cliff Branch quickly provided the game's first touchdown, followed just minutes later by a second.
Branch to the left against Edwards. Chandler to the right. Plunkett on a straight drop back. Here comes the rush. Steps up. Can't find anybody yet. Takes off running to the left. Rolls on the move. And it's caught by King at the 40. King takes over the 50. He'll go all the way. Nobody getting. To the 20. To the 10. To the 12. Touchdown Raiders.
Kenny King's record 80-yard touchdown was the first half offensive gem, while rugged Bob Nelson, Matt Millen, Reggie Kinlaw, and Dave Pear anchored an interior defense that grounded the Eagles, and then denied a seemingly sure field goal as the Raiders led convincingly at the half, before blowing Super Bowl 15 wide open at the start of the third quarter.
Branch to the left, Chandler to the right. Play fake, Plunkett back, sets up deep with time. Looking, going deep to Chandler and a crossing turn, makes the catch at the 40. Out of bounds on the 30. Back is Plunkett. Time to throw. Deep to the end zone to Branch. It is caught by Branch. Touchdown Raiders. Cliff Branch's second touchdown catch of the day. Holy Toledo.
The world had learned what the Raider organization already knew. This game, this season, this league belonged to the Oakland Raiders. Rod Martin added his record-breaking second and third interceptions as these unconquerable Raiders won still another world championship of professional football, a crowning glory to 3 decades of destiny.
Crescendo of Raider fans beginning to rise. 7, 6, 5. Silver and black football is king of the hill in the National Football League. The Oakland Raiders are the champions of Super Bowl 15. Oakland 27, Philadelphia 10.
We were the best team. We deserve to be world champions. I'm proud of you.
You know, when you look back at the years of glory of the Oakland Raiders, but this was our finest hour. This was the finest hour in the history of the Oakland Raiders. To Tom Flores, the coaches, and the great athletes, you were magnificent out there today. You really...
Thursday, Top Rank Boxing features 2 undefeated lightweights. Brett Summers and Derek McGuire put their records and their reputations on the line in 10 rounds of non-stop action from Atlantic City. See who prevails in this hard-hitting duel, live Thursday on ESPN.
Wednesday, ESPN's SportsCenter team brings you all the hot shots. Wherever news is being made, we'll be there to bring you the complete story. Then, find out who has the finest physique. The world's best bodybuilders look to show some muscle in the 1984 Mr. Universe competition. Next, heavyweight Jerry Cooney shows his strength in a slugfest against George Chaplin. It's the featured fight on a special boxing card. ESPN's Wednesday is for winners.
The 1984 Kart Auto Racing Award Special names the drivers who did their best to beat the rest from Indy to Laguna Seca, Saturday.
The Oakland Raiders have given us many of the NFL's greatest moments. But I'd like to repeat a story that has been said many times, but I'll never forget it. What a comeback during the 1980 season and during that Super Bowl for Jim Plunkett. Here was a man from Northern California, the area, given up on by other teams in the National Football League, picked up by the Oakland Raiders, and he brought them back. Not only brought them back under the tutelage of Tom Flores, but brought them back all the way. Yes, the Raiders gave us many of the NFL's greatest moments. But Jim Plunkett, you were something special. I'm Jim Simpson. Join us again later here on ESPN for NFL's Greatest Moments.
Merry Christmas, everybody, from all of us here at ESPN. I'm Chris Berman. We'll be back with more great moments from the National Football League in just a couple of moments. Speaking of the NFL, it was a very Merry Christmas for Chuck Knox. Not only does he get to prepare his team for another playoff game, but the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks has been named Coach of the Year in the AFC by the UPI. The voting done by 4 writers in each of the 14 AFC cities. And Knox gets the first place nod over Dan Reeves of the Broncos. Don Shula of the Dolphins finished third. Pretty good accomplishment for Knox this year. 12-4 with the Seahawks. And when you consider that Kurt Warner went out with a season-ending injury in game number 1, really shows you what type of coaching job Chuck Knox did. Very deserved award today for Chuck Knox of the Seahawks. They play the annual blue-gray game today in college football. And it didn't work this way in the Civil War, but today the South rose again. The Gray beat the Blue 33-6 in the annual Classic in Montgomery, Alabama. Jerry Rice of Mississippi Valley caught a couple of touchdown passes in that contest. We'll be back with more on this Christmas SportsCenter update right after this.
Christmas Day on ESPN brings you athletes as good as gold. Olympic medalist Mary Lou Retton is just one of America's golden heroes. A gag gift is what you'll get next from the NFL's Football Follies. Watch high-priced pros become gridiron goobers right before your eyes. Then we're ready for a super surprise. More than 2 hours of Super Bowl highlights. It could prove to be a preview of things to come. Have a Merry Christmas with ESPN.
All right, we have some college basketball to check out from the island of Oahu out in Hawaii. Louisville is playing number 16 Oklahoma. It's a nip and tuck affair in the first half with the Sooners leading the Interns of Dunk 24-23 in the first half. And, of course, later on coming up, the Silver Swords of Chaminade try and make it 2 upsets in a row. They beat Louisville the other night. They'll be going up against number 4 Joe Concac SMU and company. That game it gets underway about 2 hours from now. NBA action this afternoon. The Philadelphia 76ers are in the Silver Dome in Pontiac, Michigan, taking on the Detroit Pistons, and the Sixers leading big by 13 in the second quarter. The Sixers lead it 49-36. There are 3 other games on tap tonight in the NBA. You want to go out to do a little Christmas night NBA watching. New Jersey is at New York, Atlanta is at Cleveland, and Golden State is at Portland. A reminder that the Sports Center, that's right, the Christmas Day Sports Center comes your way at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. I'll be joined then by Dave Sullivan. We now have AFC sudden death overtime games coming up 71 through 77 as NFL greatest moments continue.
Hello, I'm Jim Simpson, and welcome again to NFL's greatest moments here on ESPN. Sudden death playoffs, tremendous. And sudden death in the playoffs, what exciting, great moments for the NFL. And that's what you're going to see today. 2 renowned sudden death playoff games. First of all, 1971, at that time, the longest game ever played in professional football, Kansas City and Miami. Remember that one? And then in 1977 at Baltimore, Oakland and Baltimore. But before we show you these great moments, a personal story on my behalf. In 1971, I had the chance, working for the NBC network, of doing either or. In other words, I could do Kansas City, Miami on Christmas afternoon, or the next day I could do Cleveland hosting Baltimore. But having a large family, I said, look, folks, I'd like to stay home with my children and leave Christmas night and not miss the stockings hung by the chimney with care. So I did. Had a great Christmas, wouldn't have missed it for the world. But on my way on the airplane to Cleveland to do the game the next day, guess what I heard? The longest game in professional football at that time was won by Miami on a field goal, and I missed it. The big point is I made Christmas with my family. But I'll be able to see that game again when we come back with NFL's greatest moments.
Who says you can't have it all? Says you can't love your work and leave it too? Who says you can't taste it all without it telling on you? Michelob yes you can. Michelob Light. Oh, yes you can.
Michelob Light. Super premium taste in a less filling beer.
Michelob Light. Oh, yes you can. Have it all.
No story out of the LA Summer Olympics was any larger than the success of the gymnastics team. I'm Bob Lee. Join me for a look at America's Golden Heroes here on ESPN.
We live America's golden moments at the Summer Games, where our gymnasts reached unparalleled heights. Our Christmas stars are ready to sparkle. Tuesday.
The Chiefs and the Dolphins were to demonstrate perhaps more than ever before why the game is called football. Jan Stenerud's towering kickoffs were a weapon in themselves, preventing any return on almost every one of them. From the outset, the Dolphins would try to run on Kansas City's defense, number 2 in the AFC against the run. And throughout the first half, the Dolphins' tandem of Jim Kick and Larry Zonka would be unable to do so. In fact, the Chiefs dominated the